Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a new edition of Let's Argue, where I go on the internet, I take your unpopular opinions, hot takes, tough questions, I respond to the best ones. That's what we're gonna do! Let's go. TikTok is bad for the children. Why? There's just kids doing jokes and viral dances, and yeah, sure, there's like cult of personality and crappy morons that nobody should really be spending any of their time watching or engaging with, but that's true of every single social media platform. Like, the worst stuff about TikTok is also true of other social media platforms. So maybe your argument here is that social media in general is bad for kids, and maybe to a degree I do agree that kids that are super young maybe should not be on social media because of what it could potentially expose them to. But that being said, I haven't really seen anything specific about the TikTok platform that makes it so much more terrible or more dangerous than any other brand of social media out there currently. There's literally Nazis and fascists all over Twitter, and conspiracy theories are being pushed on every corner of Facebook right now, but like, we're worried about what teens are doing on TikTok? Dr. Disrespect is forming an entire genre of music with his lore and character? Are you fucking talking about synthwave? Synthwave? It's been around, it's been a thing. It arguably had like a bit of a semi-mainstream moment, and then that kind of dissipated, and Dr. Disrespect is out here just kind of feeding off the remains of that shit. It's not a new thing. It's been around. I mean, fucking Hotline Miami? Come on. Mario 64 is mid, honestly. No, not true. I disagree. Bro, I played that shit the year it came out and it ruled. Like, the gameplay was cool, the camera sucked, but the enemies were fun, like the 3D world was super creative and mind-blowing for the time. And that's the thing, like, if Mario 64 was truly mid, it would have been bad upon release, because look, there were lots of very bad games that tried sort of that 3D world style that came out in that era, and Mario 64 was easily one of the best. Look, it ruled and it rules. Don't hate. People who put the Noi album in their favorite albums lists only do so to make it seem like they're deep about music. 2.5 of the tracks are just weird space noises. Are you talking about the first one? I mean, it's a pretty good record. I think maybe in a respect it's a tad bit overrated. I prefer Noi 75 so much more. Like, the songs on there kick ass, they're driving, like, it's some real proto-punk shit. But I don't think the original Noi record is a bad listen. It's abstract, it's got some weird soundscapey shit on it. I guess you have to kind of appreciate the time musically and aesthetically that it was coming from, like, you know, for the era that it was recorded in, it's pretty groundbreaking stuff. And I don't know, I certainly prefer the early years of Noi to that of Kraftwerk or Cluster or many other krautrock outfits who were out, you know, that same decade. SGs are trash tier guitars for their price point. Terrible neck dive as a result of strap button placement, a huge heel that makes it difficult to play higher up on the neck, and the classic Gibson headstock breakage issue are all instant deal breakers for a $1,500 instrument. I own a really good SG, and I only paid like $500 or $600 for it. That being said, I know I've talked to guitarists who have other issues with the model, like staying in tune and so on and so forth, but goddamn, man, the tone is fucking sick as fuck. And ultimately, I don't know, can't be that fucking hard to play. Zappa played the shit out of one, like, you know, and he's one of the greatest guitarists of all time. Thank you. If you're discussing Kanye's behavior without using it as an opportunity to educate others about what bipolar looks like and feels like, you are contributing to an erasure of bipolar that affects those who have it and their ability to get help. I suppose to an extent, but let's also make note that many people out there have bipolar disorder, and they don't quite act in the same way that Kanye does. Not to minimize Kanye's experience, but, you know, not everyone who has bipolar disorder experiences it in the same way. So to use Kanye as a key or a prime example isn't necessarily going to benefit anybody in the long run, especially since we're only seeing like a very small window of his behavior through social media and I don't know, celebrity headlines. So even with what we do see, we're not getting a full picture of Kanye's disorder. Look, I do think it is important when talking about Kanye's behavior to contextualize it in this grander scheme of his history of mental health, but I'm not an expert on his mental health specifically or mental health in general. So personally, while I do feel comfortable trying to comment on that in as fair a way as I possibly can, I don't feel like I am experienced enough to really educate anyone on the issue. And I feel like that's most likely the case for a lot of people who are just kind of audience to Kanye's behavior. I guess at the end of the day, people and those commenting on Kanye's behavior shouldn't be seeking to stigmatize his behavior, his disorder, or anything connected to it, because yeah, that could make it harder for others out there to seek help or understand what's going on with them if they're experiencing similar symptoms. I'll never be happy. I hope that's not true. Wow. Anthony Fantano is not a music critic. In literally every video, I tell you I am a music nerd. It's not, hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music critic. I'm not arguing against this. I guess, that those words have slipped out of my mouth, but more often than not, I'm saying music nerd, and then from there, probably album reviewer. But, critic isn't necessarily the term that I embrace the quickest, because there's so much baggage with it. People hate critics. I mean, people already hate the fuck out of me without calling myself a critic. I don't need to bring extra negativity my way. Hyperpop has already reached post-grunge levels of uniformity in its sound. Most of it just doesn't sound as experimental or unique anymore. There are so many songs I can bear with the same exact crushed snare. I don't know, I think post-grunge also had like this huge kind of mainstream appeal to it too that hyperpop doesn't necessarily have right now, and I don't think it will have. I will agree that there is sort of a trend of new artists out there, or artists who have been around for a little bit, who are embracing the sound, embracing the aesthetic without necessarily altering it too much as they enter into the fray. Look, as long as the key artists in the genre are still experimenting and trying new things, and there's still at least some people out there just taking some risks here and there, that's all I can ask for. There's going to be copycats in every style and every sound, no matter what the fuck you do. They're around, it's a thing. It's whatever. Japanese pop scene has steered the direction of the genre for the last 25 years. Not so much like mainstream J-pop, but late 90s, early 2000s progressive pop built a mold that is still used today and doesn't get much credit for. So you're saying that the Japanese pop scene has been driving the sound of the pop scene for the past 25 years, but not the mainstream J-pop stuff, but the more obscure progressive pop stuff. And one of the bands that you cite is a group that lived and ended in relative obscurity and only recently became internationally known with a cult following. So how they could have been influential for the span of time that you're talking about, Lord knows. You are massively overinflating the relevance of this music that you're talking about here. Look, it's great. It's good music. But just because it's good, you can't just invent a narrative in your head about how influential it is. It's the secret Swedish songwriters that have been massively influential to pop music over the past few decades, not Fishman's. Would you rather have an MF Doom produced album by Pierre Bourne or a Playboy Cardi album produced by Madlib? Honestly, at this point, fun thought experiment, I think I'd rather have the Cardi produced by Madlib. I think I'd rather have that. That would be a really interesting mash of aesthetics. I feel like Doom over a bunch of really basic, formulaic, super predictable Pierre beats would get really old really fast. I fail to see how that chemistry would work. Who do you think is a better musician and or lyricist, Lennon or McCartney? Hell, which one do you like more in general? Better musician, I can't necessarily say because I'm not too familiar with the technical chops of Lennon and McCartney. I mean, I've heard both of them play on recording plenty, and I mean, I can't really say I think one is supremely better than the other in terms of their performance ability. But as far as lyricism and songwriting overall, aesthetic choices, and prime studio recordings, I'm a bit more of a Lennon guy. I think he's riskier. I think he's a bit more of a visionary. I think his catalog and everything is a lot more adventurous, and I think his work with Yoko Ono is hella fucking underrated and way too fucking overhated. Paul McCartney, I think he's got some good records, some good jams. Ram is quite fun, lots of good cuts on that record, but I don't know. It's no double fantasy. Kiss 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 is a fucking banger, okay? And look, while I do love some of Paul's experimental excursions, such as Temporary Secretary, simultaneously, he has come out with some of my least favorite music, like of any Beatle as well, like Wonderful Christmas Time. Are you kidding me? That's still one of the worst songs ever. And that has been this episode of Let's Argue, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you got something out of this video, I guess. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Let's Argue forever.